Welcome back to English Podcast Adventures. I'm Michael.
And I'm Sophia.
Today we're diving into something pretty wild, a world without the internet. We've got this fascinating article called A World Without Internet, Societal Chaos and Unexpected Benefits. And we're going to unpack what life might look like if we all went offline.
Yeah, it's interesting to consider, isn't it? Because we're so used to having the internet at our fingertips. We rely on it for almost everything. But this article really makes you think about how deeply it's woven into the fabric of our lives, way beyond just entertainment or social media.
Right. The article doesn't sugarcoat things either. It jumps right into the immediate chaos that would erupt.
Yeah.
No internet means businesses grinding to a halt, banks unable to process transactions, and remote work becoming impossible overnight.
It would be utter pandemonium, especially in those first few days. Transportation systems would face major disruptions. Imagine air travel without internet-based navigation. And emergency services that depend on instant communication would be grappling with huge obstacles.
It's almost overwhelming to think about something as simple as checking messages or reading the news gone. No online banking, no ordering food, no streaming your favorite shows. If the internet vanished tomorrow, what would you miss the most?
It's a question that really gets you thinking about priorities, doesn't it? The article talks about the initial panic that would grip social media users, but it goes deeper than that. We're talking about a total shift in how we communicate as a species.
It'd be like hitting the rewind button on communication. No more instant messages, video calls, or emails. Suddenly, we're back to relying on phone calls, letters, maybe even digging out those dusty fax machines.
And that raises some important questions about international relations. Without instant communication, diplomatic efforts would be significantly hampered. The potential for misunderstandings and escalating tensions is something the article really highlights.
That's a sobering thought. But here's where things get kind of interesting. While global communication would undoubtedly suffer, the article suggests that local communities might actually see a revival. Without the constant stream of global news and social media updates, people would have to rely on each other more.
I wonder about that, though. Would it automatically translate to stronger communities? Or would the lack of global awareness and access to information create new problems? It's a fascinating paradox to consider.
You've got a point. It's not necessarily a simple equation. And speaking of complications, let's not forget the economic fallout. The article dives into how entire industries would collapse without the internet, online shopping, streaming services, digital banking. They'd all be gone overnight.
The financial impact would be colossal. Millions of jobs lost, companies struggling to adapt. It's almost unimaginable. The article even mentions cryptocurrency, which without the internet would simply cease to exist. Billions of dollars, just poof.
Poof indeed. It's a stark reminder of how much of our economy is built on this digital foundation. And it's not just those tech-heavy industries that would be affected. Even traditional businesses that rely on internet-connected supply chains would face massive disruption. Imagine grocery stores struggling to restock hospitals, losing access to critical information. It's a pretty bleak picture.
Definitely. But amidst all this chaos, the article points to something interesting, a potential return to a pre-internet world. Think about it. Newspapers, radio, and television would suddenly become our primary sources of information again.
It'd be like stepping back in time. I can already picture those newsstands on street corners bustling with people eager to get their hands on a physical copy of the news. And libraries, remember those, they become vital resource centers again.
Imagine bookstores overflowing with readers, rediscovering the joy of browsing shelves and holding a physical book in their hands. It's a fascinating image.
It really is. And think about all those old school methods that would make a comeback. Mail services would be flooded with letters. Businesses would be plastering billboards and flyers everywhere, and job seekers would be back to pounding the pavement with printed resumes.
It would be a drastic shift, wouldn't it? A world that's slower, more tactile, more focused on local connections. It makes you wonder, could we even handle that kind of change?
That's a great question. And speaking of adjusting to a new reality, there's a section in the article that I think will resonate with you, our listeners. It focuses on the challenges English language learners would face in a world without the internet.
That's a really crucial point. Imagine losing access to all those fantastic online learning resources, dictionaries, language apps, virtual tutors, online courses, podcasts, YouTube videos gone.
For those who rely heavily on those tools, it would be like hitting a major roadblock in their language journey. They'd have to rely on more traditional methods like printed textbooks, finding local English speakers to practice with, or attending in-person classes which might not be accessible for everyone.
Absolutely. And the loss of immersive online environments would be a huge setback. Think about how much we learn from engaging with English through podcasts like this one, or through movies, TV shows, and online articles.
Exactly. That constant exposure would be drastically reduced. And what about teachers? No more sharing links, downloading worksheets, or using virtual whiteboards. It'd be back to basics with textbooks and face-to-face interaction. Do you think teachers could adapt to such a drastic shift?
It would certainly demand a lot of creativity and resourcefulness that have to rediscover the art of engaging students without the bells and whistles of technology.
It makes you realize how much we take for granted, doesn't it? So to our listeners who are on this language learning adventure with us, how do you think you'd keep learning English if the internet suddenly disappeared? Just something to ponder.
It really is. But let's not dwell on the negatives for too long. The article does mention some potential silver linings to a world without internet.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about these silver linings.
Well, one of the most striking possibilities is the strengthening of communities without the constant distraction of the internet and social media. People might be more inclined to interact with their neighbors, participate in local events, and build those face-to-face connections that are so crucial for a thriving community.
So it's like a forced digital detox on a global scale, pushing us back towards more real-world interaction.
Precisely. And the potential benefits extend to mental health as well. Imagine a world without the constant pressure of social media, the comparisons, the fear of missing out. People might experience a profound sense of relief, a slowing down of the mental chatter that's become so pervasive in our digital age.
That's a really interesting point. I've definitely felt that pressure myself, that feeling of needing to be constantly connected and on. Do you think we'd actually see a decrease in things like anxiety and depression if we weren't so bombarded with online stimuli?
It's certainly possible. The article cites some research on the benefits of digital detoxes, showing that even short breaks from technology can lead to improvements in mood focus and overall well-being.
That makes sense. And speaking of well-being, the article also talks about how an offline world might lead to a renewed appreciation for hobbies, family time, and spending time in nature.
Absolutely. Imagine rediscovering the simple joy of reading a physical book without the temptation of notifications popping up every few seconds, or gathering with loved ones for a game night without everyone being glued to their phones.
I love that idea. It's so idyllic. But part of me wonders if it's a bit romanticized. I mean, would we really all become these nature-loving, hobby-embracing, quality time enthusiasts if we were suddenly unplugged? Or would we just find other ways to fill the void?
That's a valid question. Human nature is complex, and it's hard to predict how we'd truly react to such a dramatic shift. Perhaps some people would thrive in a world without the internet, while others would struggle.
It's fascinating to think about, isn't it? And we can't forget the potential environmental benefits either. The article points out the massive energy consumption of data centers and internet infrastructure, all of which contribute to carbon emissions.
That's a really important point that often gets overlooked. Our digital lives have a very real environmental footprint. Without the constant demands of the internet, we could see a substantial reduction in energy consumption and a decrease in electronic waste.
So while a world without the internet would undoubtedly present its share of challenges, it's clear that there could also be some unexpected and perhaps even welcome benefits.
Absolutely, it's a thought-provoking exercise that forces us to confront our dependence on technology and consider the potential consequences, both positive and negative.
It really makes you appreciate the complexities of our interconnected world and the profound impact that the internet has on every aspect of our lives.
It does, and it invites us to reflect on the value of human connection, the importance of community, and the beauty of the natural world, things that are often overshadowed in our hyperconnected digital lives.
So could we really survive without the internet? Would we adapt, innovate, and find new ways to thrive? Or would we crumble under the weight of such a dramatic shift?
The article suggests that while it wouldn't be easy, humans are remarkably adaptable. We've faced challenges throughout history, and we found ways to overcome them.
I guess it's in our nature to find solutions to innovate and create new paths forward. But wouldn't there be a period of an intense disruption and adjustment, especially in those first few months or even years?
Undoubtedly, the transition would be bumpy, to say the least. Governments and businesses would play a crucial role in stabilizing essential services and fostering the development of alternative communication networks.
It's hard to imagine what those networks might look like, isn't it? Would we see a resurgence of ham radio or some entirely new form of communication technology emerging?
That's one of the most intriguing aspects of this thought experiment, the potential for innovation and the emergence of unforeseen solutions.
And on an individual level, we'd all have to adapt our ways of living, working, and interacting with the world. No more online banking or shopping, no more instant communication, no more relying on Google Maps to navigate.
It would be a fundamental shift in how we operate, wouldn't it? A world that's slower, more tactile, more focused on local connections and real-world experiences.
It's almost like stepping back in time, but with a knowledge and awareness of our interconnected past. Do you think deep down there's a part of us that longs for that simpler way of life even if it means sacrificing some of the conveniences we've come to rely on?
That's a profound question, and one that I think deserves some serious reflection. Perhaps there's a part of us that yearns for a world where we're less tethered to our devices and more present in the moment.
It's certainly a tempting thought. So as we wrap up part 2 of this deep dive, I think it's safe to say that a world without the internet would be a world of both immense challenges and intriguing possibilities.
Indeed, it's a world that forces us to confront our reliance on technology, to reevaluate our priorities, and to consider what truly matters in life.
And it reminds us that even in a world increasingly dominated by the digital, there is still beauty and value to be found in the analog, in the tangible, in the connections we forge with each other and with the world around us.
We'll get back soon with part 3, where we'll explore the source's final thoughts and discuss some of the key takeaways from this thought-provoking journey.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into a world without the internet.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? We've explored the potential chaos, the adaptations, and even some surprising benefits of such a scenario.
We've really gone down the rabbit hole with this one, and now as we turn to the final thought section of our source material, it's time to bring this thought experiment full circle and consider what it all means for us.
The article ends on a really thought-provoking note, asking a question that I think resonates deeply in our hyper-connected world. Have we become too dependent on the internet?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's so easy to take our constant internet access for granted, but this deep dive has really highlighted how vulnerable we might be if that access were suddenly taken away.
It's almost like we've built this entire society on a foundation of sand. We rely on the internet for communication, for work, for entertainment, for accessing information, for almost everything.
And the article challenges us to really examine our own level of dependence. Could we function effectively in a world without it? What aspects of our lives would be most disrupted? It's a bit unsettling to think about, honestly.
It is, but perhaps a bit of healthy discomfort is what we need to reevaluate our relationship with technology. The article isn't advocating for a complete abandonment of the internet. Of course, it's more about finding a balance, about becoming more intentional and responsible in how we use it.
That makes sense. It's about recognizing that the internet is a powerful tool, but it shouldn't be the only tool in our toolbox. And maybe this thought experiment can help us rediscover some of those other tools, the ones that involve real-world connections, face-to-face interactions, and engaging with our communities.
Exactly. The article encourages us to appreciate the real world around us, to look up from our screens, and reconnect with those things that bring us joy and fulfillment outside of the digital realm.
I love that it's a reminder to savor the simple pleasure, spending time in nature, having meaningful conversations, pursuing hobbies, connecting with loved ones, all those things that can easily get pushed aside when we're caught up in the whirlwind of the internet.
It's about making a conscious effort to prioritize those things, to create space for them in our lives, even if it means unplugging for a little while each day.
And maybe, just maybe, that's the biggest takeaway from this entire deep dive. It's not about predicting the future or fearing a world without the internet. It's about recognizing that we have the power to shape our relationship with technology, to use it as a tool to enhance our lives rather than letting it consume us.
That's a really empowering message, isn't it? We're not powerless in the face of technological advancement. We can make choices, set boundaries, and create a balance that works for us.
Absolutely. So as we conclude this journey, we leave you with a final thought to ponder, even if the internet doesn't disappear. What steps can you take to be less reliant on it and appreciate the offline world more?
Perhaps you could start by setting aside some time each day for unplugged activities, reading a book, going for a walk, having a face-to-face conversation, pursuing a hobby.
Or maybe you could challenge yourself to disconnect for an entire weekend, a digital detox, if you will. It might feel strange at first, but who knows, you might discover some hidden joys and rediscover a sense of peace and presence that you'd forgotten was possible.
The choice is yours, but we hope this deep dive has inspired you to think critically about your relationship with technology and to find a balance that allows you to enjoy the benefits of the internet while also nurturing those aspects of your life that miss beyond the screen.
And if this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your comments, reflections, and personal experiences with us. We're always eager to learn from our amazing listeners.
And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more insightful explorations of complex and thought-provoking topics.
Thanks for joining us on this adventure, and until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep questioning.